Who is Alexander Lukashenko? Europe's longest-serving leader Alexander Lukashenko has long worked hard to seem invincible. He has dominated past elections that the U.S. has deemed neither free nor fair and brokered no dissent and suppressed protests. Now, he is facing an unprecedented challenge as he runs for a sixth term as president of Belarus in elections on August 9. Here are some facts about the 65-year-old leader. Live details. Lukashenko was born in August 1954 in the Vitebsk region of Belarus. A teacher by education and a former state farm boss in Soviet times, he is dubbed Batka, father, for his iron-fisted style but also for his down-to-earth comments and hands-on management style. He says he is severe but fair. The balding, mustachioed Lukashenko is popular at home, especially among elderly and rural voters. He portrays Belarus as under siege from the West and attacks corruption and mismanagement in lengthy televised speeches calling for order and stability. He is married, but his wife lives in a village while the president lives in a state residency near the capital Minsk. He has two grown-up sons with his wife, and a third child, Nikolai, who is about 6 years of age. Nikolai frequently accompanies Lukashenko on official business. A keen amateur ice hockey player, Lukashenko sometimes trains with the Belarus national team and likes to appear on television in a tracksuit. Life and politics. Lukashenko was the only member of Belarus's parliament to vote against the 1991 treaty dissolving the Soviet Union, and shot to prominence 2 years later with a noisy election campaign denouncing virtually all of the country's leaders. He was first elected by a landslide in 1994, boosted by frustration over post-communist hardships. His victory ended a 3-year experiment by liberals trying to forge a national identity in a country long dominated by neighboring Russia. In 1996, Lukashenko held a referendum to boost his powers and term in office. In 2001, he was elected for a second term by a landslide and again in 2006 after a referendum that lifted the 2-term presidential limit. The opposition and Western governments denounced the polls as fraudulent. The EU and United States accuse Lukashenko of maintaining power by holding fraudulent elections, jailing opponents and muzzling independent media. His would-be-worry response to the coronavirus, which left Belarus with one of Europe's highest per capita infection rates, shattered Mr. Lukashenko's ability to impose his own alternative reality. Ms. Raklia said this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Relations with Moscow. Russian-led vote monitors have rubber-stamped Lukashenko's past victories in Belarus, a military partner that is a buffer between Russia and NATO. But the relationship has soured in recent years, and Moscow has begun reining in the energy subsidies, including cheap gas and tax-free flows of crude oil to Belarusian refineries, that underpin the country's command economy. Lukashenko has riled Moscow by refusing to recognize the breakaway Georgian regions of Abkhazia and South Ossetia as independent after Russia's 2008 war with Georgia. In 2010, he further angered Russia by giving sanctuary to the ousted president of Kyrgyzstan, Kurmanbek Bakayev, who himself had fallen out of favor with the Kremlin shortly before he was toppled in street protests. In a sign Moscow may be seeking to undermine Lukashenko's authority, Russia's NTV television has aired documentaries this year accusing him of widespread corruption. President Vladimir Putin still congratulated Mr. Lukashenko on his election victory, one of the few foreign leaders to accept the results at face value. But others in Russia, even those prone to paranoid conspiracy theories about the West, have questioned Mr. Lukashenko's fitness to govern. Electoral turmoil. The autocratic leader of Belarus, never a stickler for accurate vote counting, boasted early in his 26-year rule that he was so popular that he had to falsify his share of the vote because the original number, 93.5%, was too implausibly high. He said he made it 86% instead. "Yes, we falsified the last election," the leader, Alexander Lukashenko, said after winning his third term as president in 2006. He has been falsifying elections for decades. He can't help himself, but this year is different, said Andrei Sannikov, a former Belarusian diplomat who was arrested after he ran against Mr. Lukashenko for the presidency in 2010. "We used to trust him before, but life was getting worse and worse with each day," said Valery, a mechanic at a state-owned engineering company in Minsk, who declined to give his name for fear of punishment. "What is happening now is complete lawlessness. There was no election, it was a sham. I used to be loyal, I knew that there needed to be law enforcement to fight against criminals, bandits. But these are people, who can go against their own people." Speaking in Minsk on Wednesday, Mr. Lukashenko dismissed the protesters, who have included young professionals as well as pensioners, as people with a criminal past who are now unemployed, and told them to get jobs. "It is still not the end of the story. Let's watch what is waiting Belarus,"